So our presentation today is called Getting Better Organized for Safety, Enjoyment, and Future Planning. I'm Michael Olear. I'm with the Olear team, MJ Peterson. I've been a licensed broker for 32 years. Double alumnus, School of Management at UB, and also MSW from University of Buffalo as well. Been in community involvements, and we've been specializing in helping older adults for about 20 years now. So I start every presentation with this question, is how do you eat an elephant? And I know probably everybody there, most of you I would think know the answer. It's we eat an elephant one bite at a time, small pieces. And that's the best way if you're eliminating accumulation from your house, if you're planning a move, if you're doing any major large project. One of the things you don't want to do is start 4 or 5 different projects and then have them all open around the house. It's better to do one thing, get it done. So as far as making a plan, these are the 3 components we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about home safety, which is number 1. The home is the most dangerous place for older adults, particularly the bathroom. So we're going to talk about that and some practical things you can do to make it better. We're also going to talk about reducing accumulation as well as planning ahead. So as far as our presentation today, one of the things I want to clue you into is the home safety assessment tool. It's a great document. It's awesome. It was produced by the Occupational Therapy Geriatric Group. Geriatric's a bad word now. Department of Rehabilitation Science, University of Buffalo. And we've given these out often at our public seminars. It's sponsored by a grant by the Community Health Foundation, and it's a great document. You can find it online, or if you want, you can call or email me, and I'll send it to you. If you do a Google search, if you just put in University of Buffalo Home Safety Booklet, you can do that on MSN, any search mechanism that you use. And this is what you want to find: Home Safety Self-Assessment Tool, UB School of Public Health. So one of the things, in case you don't know, when you do a search on any search engine, typically the first 3 things that come up are paid advertising. A lot of people don't know that. So look down the list, find the one that's produced by the UB School of Public Health. This is an actual page from it, so you get an idea of what it looks like. So all the numbers correspond to the small box below. And in particular, what you're doing is you're taking a very objective look at where you live. And with going through it, you are going to identify the problems. You put a check in each of the boxes, and then you add how many numbers and put it in the bottom. And then once you finish all the pages, you can put together, do the math, and it will tell you, to what degree your house is safe or unsafe. It will also, I think, force you to take an objective look at where you live and how you live. I did this with my mom. She lived in a smaller house, Cape Cod house. Fortunately, she had bedroom and bath on the first floor, and also her laundry. That we made it happen that she had laundry on the first floor and in one of the rooms. Quite frequently, you can do that at a very low cost. And she was able to stay there, as for the rest of her life, which was wonderful. And stay there safely. That's a big key here. So if you'd like one of these booklets, you can call me or you can email me, and we'll get it out to you with, give us maybe 5 business days tops, but we'll get it in the mail to you. So reducing accumulation, what is the first thing you absolutely need? This is very, very important. Without it, you're not going anywhere. You need a commitment. I was in a coaching program maybe 5, 6 years ago for a couple of years, as far as how to run your business better. And the guy that ran that said, when you make a commitment, everything changes. He would start every presentation with that. And that's important. I mean, if you're going to, do something, it doesn't mean that once you start reducing accumulation that you're going to leave your house. You're just going to make it nicer for yourself. And I bet there's a lot of you out there that have been taking advantage of the time to do this. I hope you are. A little bit every day. It's important to not try to bite this off, to the point where you're working 4 or 5 hours and getting sick and making mistakes and falling down. And you want to do this when you're fresh, when you have high energy. Maybe what's your best time of day? For a lot of people, it's late morning. For some folks, it's middle afternoon. So, figure out when's a good time for you to do this and make a commitment. So first, starting with stuff. I mean, there's a variety of ways to proceed. Some people like to go room by room. Other folks like to work in categories. I happen to like, my preference is to go room by room, just because you can see progress, and then it's almost like a sacred space then that you're not going to mess up. My wife and I did this. We moved last year, and we did a process like this because we raised 2 kids in a house. And, I remember when we moved in there, and I remember thinking, oh my God, the storage in here is amazing. I remember saying that to my wife because there were these big closets and shelving everywhere. But boy, oh boy, when we went to start clearing it out, we had so much stuff. And a lot of things that we had looked at, used, needed, but we didn't want to just willy-nilly throw everything out. So probably over the course of a couple of years, we went through everything. Paperwork, I run across people that have tax returns for the last 30 or 40 years. What I find with them is it's really important to maybe talk to your accountant first. But a lot of those tax returns you don't need to keep, and all the receipts that go with it. There is a limitation on what you're responsible for. It only goes back, and I'm not an accountant, so I'm not going to tell you how many years you're responsible for. Check with your accountant. But anything before that, you can throw it out, I believe. And but just make sure you get the right advice on that. Shoes, those could be donated. Outdoor supplies that you'll never use again. It's really, really a freeing thing to get rid of, things you don't need, or donate them to organizations that can put them to good use. There was a guy on the west side that was collecting shoes for people overseas. I mean, it was just amazing that the different ideas of things that people do. I'm a big fan of doing a room by room list. And, of looking at all the major objects in the room. For starters, make a list of everything you have. And then going through and deciding, say, if I ever move someday, what I would absolutely need to take. What do I want to donate? One of the things we can do where, we're not able to drop things off and donate them, or, say Salvation Army's not doing pickups, for a while, what you can do is designate a spot, whether it would be in a garage, in a room that you don't use very much, and make piles. It makes it so much easier if you take all the clothes you want to donate and put them all in one spot, preferably somewhere where they can be picked up easily without people, having to walk through your house. With the room by room list, one of the things that is really helpful to do is to make 3 columns and then have it be what's going to stay, what's going to go, and I don't know. The I don't know column really helps out a lot to be able to get through this process and not get stuck. What happens with people so often is they get stuck on one piece of furniture. And it's can be very difficult because then all of a sudden you short circuit the process. I would encourage you to do these 3 columns. What I definitely want to keep, what I don't need anymore, or what I'd like to give away or donate. And then things I'm not sure yet. It gives you a lot of freedom to work with, a list of room by room. As far as personal property and how to give things to family, how to keep everybody happy, and how to motivate them to come and get things, which is always maybe the most challenging part. Keeping everybody happy, I think one of the things that you can do is actually have some type of meeting with anyone that might be involved. Say you have 3 children, or maybe you have 7 nieces and nephews, and you'd like everybody to be able to choose something if they want to. A lot of the kids don't want stuff now. A lot of the millennials. When we moved, we wanted to give things to our kids. They didn't want any of it. Even like some of their papers, like from elementary school. And my wife has done an amazing job. Sandy's, over the years kind of kept a lot of things. But she painstakingly went through stuff and kind of made a greatest hits of all their years. And so we got a couple boxes with items that we're going to keep, and I think down the road they probably will like them. Like what we have is each kid has like a banker's box full of stuff. That's what we limited ourselves to. One thing I didn't add about paperwork, like say if you're getting rid of your old tax returns. I know my uncle, I was his executor, and he had financial reports from different entities going back to, I think, 1970. Piles and piles and piles of paperwork with his personal information on there. What I ended up doing was I hired a company. They actually come to your house, and it's very affordable. I think it was maybe at the time cost about $80, and they took 10 banker's boxes full of paper, and they took it out of the garage, is where I was moved it all, and then they took it out to the street and shredded it all right in front of me. So there's several services that do that. So as far as kids, grandkids, nephews, nieces, trying to motivate them in a nice way to come and pick up items. The only way really ultimately to do this is to give some kind of deadline. And, it has to be like if you're thinking you are actually going to move at some point, or you're going to have Salvation Army come and pick things up in 6 months. I think providing some kind of deadline is a great way to, get to, do they really want it or not? One of the things that can happen is, one of the things in my I had this chair that I would always sit in, and I didn't really want it. Like my grandmother thought I wanted it. I didn't really want it. But she used to always, say things like, if you ever want the chair, and I just kind of went along with it because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. But maybe people in your life are doing that. It's hard to know. So I guess the main thing is to, if you're doing donations and you want family to choose whether or not they want something, you can say, next spring I'm having Salvation Army come. So if you want the rocker, come and get it because I need more space in my house. So there's a donation list that we can send to you. Again, my phone number, my email address is posted on here. And please give a call and we can send it to you. We can send it to you via email, or I'll put it in the mail to you. And then also Katie, for sure, you can contact her and from Senior Services, and she could send it to you as well. I believe we also have it on our website at olear.com. So how do you start? Or what kind of method can you use? I'm a huge fan of metrics. We have metrics in our business. Any successful business has metrics. They're called key performance indicators, and the jargon is KPI. So what that means is you set a measurable amount over a certain time period. And what it does, I think it does for you, it allows you to feel like you're making progress. If you start out, I remember when I was much younger, I would say, well, I'm going to do this like 7 days a week, like working out. I'm going to work out 7 days a week for 90 minutes every morning, and that's a recipe for failure. I think one of the things that's really important is that you set a reasonable expectation for yourself. So maybe you're going to do like 1 box a day, a couple times a week, maybe 4 times a week, 6 times a month. You decide on the interval. And that way, a little bit at a time, I think going room by room, you can take your house and make it much, much safer and also much enjoyable for you. There's a Hindu principle called, I believe it's Hindu, the recirculation, the law of recirculation. And what happens is when you get rid of things that no longer serve you, you make room in your life for things that will be of greater benefit to you. I firmly believe that. I really think that does happen. So throughout our presentation, you'll see down on the bottom where it says sell the house but keep your home. One thing that I like to talk about is psychological furniture. And I think we might have made up that phrase. I'm not sure. But it's, to me, psychological furniture is all the things that make your home. And it's really important, I think, to make sure and, decide on what's the most important thing for you to keep. And I just tell a quick story. I had a lady that had a teacup collection with probably 70, 80 teacups, and they were on a dining room wall, and they were in an absolutely masterful woodworking cabinet that her husband had made. He had died 5 years before, and they had gone on a lot of trips. And her thing, what she did was she bought teacups from all the places that they visited. And I went to see her. It was over the course of a lot of years. I went back a couple of times. And, after a while, I realized that was the thing she just didn't want to leave. It wasn't the kind of thing you could move. It was big. So what ended up happening, we enlisted one of her grandkids to take beautiful photos of all the teacups and put them on a thumb drive, and they got a beautiful, large digital frame for her. And so she was able to keep the teacups in a digital form. I think she chose maybe 8, 9, or 10 of them that she hung on to. A lot of the teacups went to family as Christmas presents or holiday presents, at the end of the year. And then there was a small number of those that ended up being donated or sold. So that's how you can keep your house, or keep your home but sell your house. That's definitely the method to do that. And it's important while you're going room by room is deciding, which of these items are most important to you, that you really need to sustain to feel a sense of home. So next we're going to move into the money plan, the different aspects of this. Very, very important that you speak to someone you absolutely trust, who has nothing to gain by you making any changes. And perhaps that's family, financial advisor, maybe you have an attorney. You need to determine, is your plan realistic? Is it practical? Am I planning on moving into a $4,000 a month independent living setting? And what I have is only going to sustain me for 1 year. That wouldn't be a good plan. Very, very important to think through so that the assets you have are used best possible, to keep you living happy and healthy for a long time. So legal is really important at this. So if you're getting rid of accumulation, getting rid of things you don't need, it's really important that you get things you do need. And I've given myself permission over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years to talk to people about their legal needs. And once you get over the age of 60 years old, it's very, very important that you have a healthcare proxy, power of attorney, and also a will. They're called advance directives. True story. Talked to somebody, and I was at an appointment because they were thinking about selling their house, and she said to me, I talked to my cousin's friend at this party. She's a lawyer, and so I'm all set. And it's like, you're not all set. The actual process of planning is you need to fill out a document and go through an inventory of your assets in order to determine what are the best things for you to be doing in terms of your planning. How do you have things titled? Do you need a trust? A lot of people have used life estate for real estate over the years. And, in some cases, it's actually not the best thing to do. So elder law attorney who's specifically trained in that area is the right person to talk to. So these are the critical items. So as far as moving, how do you know when it's time? As far as selling your house and keeping your home, I touched on that a little bit already. But how do you know when it's time? I think a method that works really well is to get actual paper calendar that has the month or days, boxes that you write on. I know a lot of people are working off of those to keep track of, different appointments you have. And what I would suggest at the same time every day, be it morning, maybe you have tea in the afternoon, or maybe you read at night upstairs, the best thing to do is get a calendar and mark off how do I feel about where I'm living? Would I rather be somewhere else? If your back hurts because you were doing things, hauling things, out of the basement or working in the yard, and gosh, I'm tired of this. Or maybe you had, an exhilarating day because you really, enjoyed watching the kids, riding their bikes on the sidewalk, and it's spring and you're happy. And so write that down. Maybe use a simple word all the time, as simple as stay or go. And then if you do it over 30 days or 45 days, total it up at the end of the time period and see where you are. If you're 80% stay, you shouldn't be worrying about this. But if you're 50 or 60% go, maybe it's time to try to be out in front of this and start making plans, and maybe plan a year out, 6 months out, 2 years out. Start investigating places where you might want to live once you figure out what the finances are. So important to sell the house but keep your home. So important. We have a setup in our guest bathroom that looks Caribbean. My wife and I have been on a few trips to different islands, and we just love the water, the color of the water, the sunshine. So we have like different things from those trips all in the guest bathroom, with bright orange towels, and it feels really beachy. And we had that in our old house and recreated it here. So it's that's what we do. That's how you can keep, sell your house but still keep your home. Think about different areas. Where do you read? Is it a place you're really comfortable? A certain chair, a certain look out the window maybe, or your favorite lamp for reading, things like that. So as far as move planning, how do you accomplish it? There's a lot of details. I'm a firm believer in trying to make a timeline. So timeline would this is what I do a lot of times when I meet with people, help them figure it out. So one of the things I hear so often is, I don't want to spend another house or another winter in this house. I hear that from people often, especially this time of year. And really, sometimes with people, I hear it in September, so it's like time to get really moving. So what I suggest is picking out the date when you're going to go and then working the dates backwards. It's such a great way to do this so you can truly have an idea of how this will happen. And quite often, I mean, we're maybe on waiting lists. We have decided to move. We know where we want to go. I mean, I've come across places that have 2-year waiting lists. So, so in the same way, once you have a place in mind, you can do the same thing. You can make a plan, whereas everything will just fall into place. So if it's 2 years out, or they've called you and they have a place for you and you want to commit, you can do the same thing. You can make a plan that's going to get you into the new place safely and still have time to take care of all the other aspects, which would, include selling, donating, giving away, extra possessions that maybe you're not going to keep. So one thing to keep in mind is a standard real estate closing, if you own a house, takes 2 months. So what I typically suggest is working backwards. So if your move date is going to be, let's say, October 1st, what you want to make sure and do is figure it, well, I want my real estate closing to be after October 1st, so I have my house long enough to move everything, and perhaps also even do a household sale. So let's figure end of October for when the title will actually transfer to someone else. So you work it back 2 months. 2 months from the end of October is the end of August. So that would mean I would need to have my house under contract by the end of August. So the average in Western New York for selling a house is about 30 days. So that would mean I'd have to have my house on the market by sometime in July, let's say mid to later July. And then with that marketing period, it sells in a month. And then how much time do I have to get ready? The time you have to get ready is from wherever you are in time to around the middle of July. And that's how you work out the timeline, quite simply. What if it sells right away? Is your timeline going to be disturbed? Well, there's different mechanisms that you can do. You can work it out to stay over longer in the house. I'm a big fan of getting the buyer's money in my account and then staying on either at no cost or at small stipend to pay some type of rent to the new owner. You actually become the tenant in your own house. It's so much better to do that. Get the cash, you're all set. Real estate closings, you don't want to stretch them out. Things can happen, the longer it takes to close. So here's the moving plan components. Where am I moving to? What do I do with personal property? What's the money plan? Do I fix things or sell it as is? And do I need to hire someone to help me? So these are the 5 things that need to be answered. And by the way, if you'd like a copy of this PowerPoint, I'd be happy to send it to you. Again, you have my email, you have my phone number. So the correct sequence, what gets sold first, the house, the excess content. I think you sell the house first, if at all possible, because you'll end up selling for a higher price. The natural inclination from most folks is to completely empty a house first and then sell the house. If you ask 10 people, at least 6 or 7 will tell you that that's the way you should do this. And it's actually, in most cases, it's the wrong way to do it. Unless the house has so much in it that it's not going to be possible to reduce the accumulation enough that you can get a good price. The reasons why is because even if there's too much there, a lot of times you can reduce what's there, box it, put it in totes, put it in the garage, use the closets, and just set it up really nice. And I'm a huge fan of moving first, if at all possible. If it makes sense and you have a comfort level with doing that, especially if, say, there's an apartment that you've been waiting for, it comes available. Best thing I think is to move in, take the things that you want, make sure that they fit, bring the things that you want, and then take what's left in the house, stage the house for sale by moving some things around, and then just put it on the market then. We usually have more than enough in our house that once we move out, things can be restaged. And that's something that we always go in and advise people on room by room. We have people that can come in and help do that as well. So fixing or selling as is, you absolutely 100% can sell a house as is. As far as fixing things, one of the things you don't want to do is try to stay ahead of the home inspector and fix everything. What can happen is you'll end up spending a lot of money you don't need to spend, and no matter what you fix, a home inspector is going to find something. It's like the health inspector coming into the kitchen. They absolutely, if they don't find things wrong, how can they justify, their fee? And some really pride themselves on making sure to, catch all the details. So the main thing you want to be concerned about is that any expense has a sufficient return. You don't want to be spending money on things where maybe you're only going to get a tiny bit back. Some people, I've walked into houses and we knew we were going to sell, so we just replaced all the windows. And they have these beautiful vinyl replacement windows, which I love. I think they're awesome. They're really, really good. And if you're thinking you want to replace windows because you're going to stay in the house for a period of time, you want the enjoyment and the energy savings, go ahead and do it, But if you're doing it just to sell the house, the return just isn't there. The thing that's really, really important is taking care of things that might be impediments to financing. And that's the kind of thing that, we can help identify for you. As far as staging, critically important to, make especially the first few rooms that people walk in, you want to make sure that those are as spacious and as open as possible. So they begin forming a really positive impression about the house. The front entry is critical. You want to make sure the front door is painted, it's clean. Sometimes on listing appointments, I always go to the front door and just see what kind of, impression I have. And, a lot of times people use the side door, back door, or they drive in the garage and walk in the house and never look at the front door. But when you're selling your house, they're not going to come in through your garage. They're going to come in through the front door. And sometimes they get there and there's 3 weeks of Metro, soggy and plastic bags and, cobwebs and everything else. So go out and take a good look at it. A lot of times maybe if there's, decorative wood framing, repainting the front door, hanging a wreath, great bang for the buck, putting money into that area. Because people are there, they're forming an impression, they're trying to decide whether or not they want to buy the property. You want it to be green lights. You want them to be thinking positively. So as far as getting help, sorting things out, there are various professions that have popped up, I'd say over the last 10 years or so, with the baby boom generation getting larger as a larger percentage of our overall population. There's a category of move managers. What move managers actually do is they will take you to see different apartments. They will also do space planning, like a diagram, and measure your furniture, help you decide, what you're going to take, or some of them will even go to the furniture store with you if you need that. It depends on how much you want to pay for. They'll coordinate your move. They'll pack for you. I mean, there's so much that can actually be done. If you don't want to do it yourself or you're not able. Aging life care manager is someone that's at a higher certification level. A lot of times that'll be someone that's a registered nurse, or someone's certified social worker that's also licensed, LCSW. I'm not that. That's additional training. It's also experience based, and then ongoing ongoing continuing education credits in order to sustain that job title. So what these folks are particularly helpful with, not only the move, but they also understand financing. They're also very well versed in medical issues around aging. To really become a good aging life care manager, you have to have experience, I would say, in a variety of positions. There are several in Western New York that are quite good, that can actually help you plan out over maybe a 5-year timeline. They're particularly useful where there's a couple partners where one partner is much healthier than the other, so that you can move to a location that'll accommodate both of you so you can stay together. They help sort through that. Also, very, very helpful, senior services caseworkers at all the senior centers throughout Erie County and Niagara County, for that matter. And if your county does not, or your particular town does not have a senior center, your resource is direct through Erie County. There's no cost. Knowledgeable people, objective, and will help you understand what's out there for you. Are there programs you'd qualify for to do things with your house at low cost? And then also real estate people. If you own a home and you need to know the value for any kind of planning, it doesn't hurt to get a couple different estimates. It's very important that you understand the components of a broker price opinion. So main thing is you don't want to be told what you want to hear. You want to see a written market analysis. You don't want to just be given 2 or 3 comparable sales. You want, like printouts. That's a really lazy way to do this. What's really important is looking at a written analysis that's based on age of properties. You want them to be very close to your geography. You want them to be around the same square footage. And then also sales that have occurred ideally within the last 6 months, but no more than 12 months. There's different cost per square foot. On like a 1-floor house, a ranch, is going to have a much higher cost per square foot than a Cape Cod house, a Cape Cod being a 1.5 story. The reason why is with a 2,000 square foot ranch, you have 2,000 square feet, spread out this way. You've got significant roof structure. You have all the excavation, concrete for the basement. And then if you have 2,000 square feet up and down with a 2-story or 1.5, you have half the roof, half the basement. And that difference in cost of the initial construction carries through on the resale of the property. So the market last year, 34 days on the market. That's for Erie and Niagara County. Days on market is from when you actually list a house to when you actually have a contract for it. And just just a word, we do seminars for other groups. I been speaking at churches, fraternal organizations, and women's groups for probably 15 years now, and I've literally done hundreds of these. It's one of the most fun things that I do. And the if you belong somewhere and you'd like me to come talk, feel free. Again, here's my this is our office phone number, and previously I gave you my cell phone and my email. So I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope you have a really safe and good day. Take care.